Welcome, everybody, to Everlasting Veteran Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Landry. I am joined in studio with my brother from another mother and my sister from another mister, Tory and Ashley Landry. No relation, all right? But we are here to talk about his time in service, and he's currently serving, and his wife, Ashely, that has Tipsy Tables. And we're going to get into this episode of an entrepreneur that started a business while he was deployed. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Everlasting Veteran Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Landry, coming to you from Gales Ferry, Connecticut. I'm joined in studio with Tory Landry and Ashley Landry. No relation. Coincidentally, we all have the same last name. Tory is in the Army, and Ashley is his wife, who started Tipsy Tables while he was deployed, an entrepreneur, growing, successful businesswoman. And we're going to talk about how that all started. It's amazing to see the growth of Tipsy Tables, your mobile bar, and your great husband over here, the support that you have starting it up while I was deployed, and you're still serving. And at some point, we're going to be looking to transition. She's going to become your boss. So let's dive in a little bit. Tory's in the Army. What's your occupation, how long you've been in, and, why did you serve?
Well, to start, I'm one of 10 children. 6 of us were adopted from Chile. And then when we came to the U.S., just like anyone else, the U.S. has always kind of given us a lot of things. And we're from a military family. My father was in the Navy. My older brother was in the Navy. And so, the call for service was always kind of there. So my older brother joined the Marine Corps. So out of the 6 of us, the top 3 joined the service. Older brother joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Army, and my younger sister joined the Army. So this June will be my 25th year. Been serving in the New York Guard in various assignments. Right now, it's given me the assignment as the HHC First of the 69th Infantry, the Fighting 69th. Located down in Midtown Manhattan, New York City.
Very nice. Very nice. And, like myself and many other, veterans, I mean, we have that sense of service because everybody around us is, it's in our blood. It's in our blood to join the military. It's, it feels right. And, we grow up, seeing stuff on TV, emulating, seeing the recruiters and all that stuff. And, that sense of service, that pride of, fighting for this country is a lot of times why people, sign up, being part of something bigger than themselves, And, Ashley, you started Tipsy Tables, right? And, had this idea to grow it to what it is now. And with the support of him when he was deployed, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Like when you're kind of brainstorming and thinking about starting something up, and kind of why did you decide to start getting into, business for yourself and be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So we were 10 months into the deployment at the time, and I knew that I didn't want to work for myself or work for somebody else. I wanted to work for myself. So 10 months into the deployment, I saw on Facebook these mobile bars, and, I have 10 years experience in the restaurant industry. So I was like, you know what? I used to bartend. I still waitress. Why not start a mobile bar? So I started looking up stuff on Facebook, researching it all. And one night talking to him, I was like, so I have an idea, a mobile bar. And he was like, go for it. So finally found a mobile bar down in Florida.
Uh-huh.
My dad went with me, drove all the way down there, got the bar. My dad helped me start everything. And then when Tory came home, the business was already up and running.
Nice.
Mhm.
And, you create, it's not just a mobile bar, it's an experience you create,
Yeah.
and, kind of dive into that, like what, why you want to create that experience and how you create that experience for people.
Yeah, so just having that interaction, I do a lot of weddings mainly. So with the bride and groom and how stressful planning a wedding is, our bar is completely custom to whatever the bride and groom want. If we can get it, we'll bring it. Um, so it's nice to be able to take that stress off of the bride and groom, have this bar, I'll bring in extra help if needed so that there's shorter lines, keep everything going. And yeah, just
Yeah. And you offer, packages and everything else. So how does that work as far as like somebody wants to utilize Tipsy Tables? What are some of like the packages that you've put together?
They've all been very different, very custom. So I start off with the inquiry, have a conversation with the bride and groom. What are you looking for? Is there a theme to your wedding? Go from there. And then, I recommend beer, wine, ciders, and then whatever the bride and groom like, we just kind of build a menu from there.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you getting back, Tori, like, people can see the pictures you guys, up in the trailer together and stuff. What is it like for you seeing, this creation that she's had from, you know, right from the beginning to what it is now, and being a part of it?
I mean, I think it's been phenomenal. She picked like the best vessel, meaning the trailer that she bought, because her family is rodeo. You know what I mean? So that fit. My family is in horse racing, and the town that we live in is rodeos. Horse racing, and so the trailer that she bought was beautiful, beautiful. Like a teal. Is it like a teal color? But just rustic. And when you're talking about the experience, they look at that trailer and they're envisioning, something unique.
Yep.
And so when she showed me the trailer that her and her dad were going to get, I was excited. I mean, I told her it takes a lot for a military spouse to support, their service member where they're away, and the absolute very least, that can be done in return is absolute support, whatever's going on at home. So I just said, send it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She said, hey, I have a good idea. And it wasn't for, approval, or it wasn't for, support. It was, this was something she was excited about. And I was equally excited about it. And it's just been phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you both said, I mean, you create this atmosphere people can like envision, right? They kind of like the studio, like you escape kind of the reality and, what's going on around you. And it just allows you to just for a moment be in that experience that you're providing. It's not just the service of what you have in the trailer, but it's all encompassing like brand that, allows people to immerse themselves, in that experience that you provide.
Right.
What are some of like, startup struggles you had, learning curves and everything else?
So we do open bar and also cash bar. So trying to learn the difference between how much beer to bring when it's open bar versus if it's cash bar, that was tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure if you get especially a younger crowd with open bar,
Right.
everybody's going to
That's a lot
drink.
of beer.
Everybody's going to drink their face off
Yeah.
until it's gone. So yeah, I can imagine the stress of making sure you have enough for everybody.
Right.
That end up being passed out in the front yard of somebody else's house.
Right.
As we pull away.
As you pull away, everybody's laying in the field.
Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, so you're in upstate New York, right? And you've slowly been expanding of where you go and everything else. What's kind of like some future plans with Tipsy Tables to kind of expand, so people that maybe are in New Hampshire want that experience that you provide? What are some of the expansion things you have kind of thoughts of doing?
Yeah. So my thoughts are hopefully get another bar up and running, have somebody else work that bar. Me and Tori will continue to do the one in Saratoga, and that'll be our home base, and then have these other bars. Also bringing in a coffee trailer.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, that's huge. Like spirits and coffee, like I feel like a hand in hand thing right now in the business, right? Because especially if like you provide the coffee thing, after an event, everybody, probably at a wedding is going to be hungover, and they're like, oh, we need coffee,
Yeah, right.
So you can kind of like switch gears and have that coffee on standby. Trailer stays in place, then everybody picks himself off the ground in the field that they passed out in, and then now we're just kidding about that, like very responsible business owner, and it's just you drink responsibly. That's the
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. But it is a adventure. That's not even a word. Adventure, like when you're starting a business, when you're kind of like pushing yourself into an uncomfortable zone, and a lot of entrepreneurs, if you lose that uncomfortableness when you're going through like, a business adventure, then you probably shouldn't do it because you're throwing caution to the wind, and that's when things can kind of get screwed up, right?
Right.
What are some of the things like when you were starting this, like the nerves and anxiety of like making sure it was right, and what are some of those that like when you're going through, because he was deployed when you started this all up, and you have this creation, a beautiful mobile bar and everything. What went into that, and kind of staying in a good mindset to make sure it was successful?
Yeah, it was pretty scary. We put a lot of money into this bar. A lot of people helped. My dad spent so much time helping. So now it's pretty scary, and I get nervous going to these events. I want it to be perfect. I don't want anything to go wrong. Do we have enough cups, napkins, beer? So that is pretty nerve-wracking. And we like to incorporate everybody at the event. So even kids, they love to come up to the bar, order mocktails. They're pretty cute.
Shirley Temples.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get 4 cherries, please.
Yeah.
Tori, your years in service and everything, you haven't completely transitioned out of the military yet. Obviously having, Tipsy Tables to kind of be your focus, as you transition out of the military at some point, do you think that having that plan lined up is going to help with your transition out of the military? And if not, what are some of the, I guess, worries of once you've completely ended your contract with the military?
I think for anyone else in serving at all, task and purpose is one of those things that it motivated us to do what we did. And so for me to be able to transition, and I love supporting her and any chance I get. I try to be the best employee possible. Sometimes that doesn't work out, but it's I think the greatest thing for me, because we got married before I deployed. And so
A week before you deployed.
A week before I deployed. And marriage is a commitment I want to do once in my life. And I picked the best partner, and she's extremely strong. So for somebody to motivate, to find, the will every single day for 365 days, to then transition to be, self-sufficient, motivating, and kind of getting something like this up, it kind of fuels, you got to push each other in the marriage. You know what I mean? You never stay stagnant. So, the task and purpose, transitioning out will be phenomenal. And just kind of knowing that, our give and take and our support for each other is that purpose. And, there's nothing bad about that. You know what I mean? It's just, we're always, trying to push each other for something better.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's huge. Like anybody, even if you have already transitioned out of the military and you have, a spouse or a partner that, is a good support rock, even a friend, having that support network where, because when you get out, and I had that sense of, the lack of brotherhood, the lack of purpose, the lack of identity, because in the military, and a lot of military members understand this, is once you get out, that who am I, right? Kind of that question arises immediately, after, your ETS from the military. And I think, rebranding yourself, reinventing yourself as this is the new me, into being a veteran. And I call it like trying to civilian, because it is, you're never going to be 100% civilian anymore. That those military tactics, training, knowledge, how you operate is forever embedded in you. You've probably seen differences, when he's come back from deployments and, stuff. So trying to civilian is just something we're going to be doing for the rest of our lives. And a lot of people transitioning out of the military kind of got to have that mindset. It's like, we're just going to do it to the best of our ability. And you're going to have what's a kind of a feeling of a void, trying to fill that cup a little bit at a time till, you kind of find yourself again and then regain your purpose. And I think, the fact that she's going to become your sergeant major now, right?
Household 6.
Yeah. I mean, she already is, but, at the same time, like it's a change of gears, change of pace, and, it's something adapting to, you already have it going on. So it's going to be easier for the transition because you're going to have a focus. You know what I mean?
I think the Guard has really kind of helped in that regard because, being an active duty, you're doing it 24/7. Like your sole purpose is whatever your job is, your position is. And I think juggling, my military career and my civilian career, and then now going to school. She and I are in school right now, finishing our degrees. It's kind of helped us. It's going to help me transition out because I've kind of been working on 2 careers, one civilian, one military, which they say, the Guard is part-time, but it makes our job that much more complicated and more challenging because I have to shift gears from, a student to a husband to, an employee, on my civilian job, and then go to those TTPs, ARs, all those TMs, all those forms and all those processes as a first sergeant to be then successful in looking out for 243 soldiers in my company. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. And even though it's, they quote it as like part-time, it is, a full-time job because even when, you leave your drill and people go to their civilian jobs, during that time, like if something happens, all of a sudden you're no longer part-time, you're handling stuff on the other side, with the military, so people don't understand that. I think, they understand it like if you're active duty, because you're there full time, and that's like your sole job. You're not doing really anything else. But when you're Guard or reserve and you have drills and everything else, that separated time between doing your drills and coming back for another drill, you still have the responsibilities, and something bad happens, like you're paying the price.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, I'm always responsible for them, and I got to share my time with her and with everyone in the unit because, like you said, if something happens, the idea of soldier care doesn't just stop just because I'm not a drill. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's difficult sometimes because I want to have as much time, our time together when I'm not a drill, but we're always prepping 30, 60, 90, 120 days out till the next drill to make sure that we meet the commander's intent, make sure that we're responsible, make sure we hitting all the the boxes that we need to be successful as a unit.
Yeah. Now, Ashley, what does it mean to you? I mean, being a military spouse and, being an entrepreneur, and being your own boss lady over here, what does it, mean to you? Like, having, all that responsibility and, having such success with it, the pride of having your own business that's, you grew. Nobody else touched it for you. Yeah, you had help and support here and there, but, that vision, you made it come true. So what does that mean to you, being a military spouse and, doing that, where sometimes you felt like maybe you were alone in the process, but you saw it through.
Right. So the deployment aside, I mean, going through a deployment, nobody understands it unless they go through it. So, you hear horror stories about, your spouse being overseas, but he made time every day. 3 times a day, we FaceTime every day. So I had his support. If I needed to get a hold of him, I waited until, lunchtime, or if he was out and about, he was able to answer his phone. When I started the business, he was there. There were times, I think one weekend the whole time, where it wasn't easy to get a hold of him. And I was like, all right, let's just do this. I'll fill him in when,
Right.
when he's ready. But
Yep.
so yeah, it's been a ride. It's been fun.
Yeah. You have any like advice for like other, military, spouse out there, that, want to do the same thing, maybe not have a bar, but, be an entrepreneur. And, do you think it's helped you kind of get through that deployment a little bit easier?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to take your energy and focus it on something, focus it on yourself, or the day's drag. You watch the clock and you count the hours, the minutes. Is the day over yet? Are we closer to June 14th? Oh, wait, he's not coming home June 14th. It's going to be a little bit later.
Gotcha.
So putting your energy into something that you really love is the best way to get through a deployment, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, being able to have those connections, while you're deployed, do you think, that deployment was a little bit easier to be able to have that open communication and, get those updates and see that, things are going well, how did that work for you? Think it was a little bit easier?
I think technology has definitely allowed us to stay in contact with our families, and we made a promise to each other that there's a lot of angst in the deployment. The separation alone, brings a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions and a lot of things that people think a deployment is versus what a deployment actually is for you as a couple.
Right.
But sticking to those commitments, like, hey, I'm going to talk to you every single day, whether I'm in Djibouti, whether I'm in Kenya. Djibouti.
Yeah.
And as long as we have Wi-Fi, if I was able, I was always connected. So sometimes she would call me and I'd be at the gym, and I was like, hey, babe, I stop, chat with her, and then continue on with my workout. But
In Djibouti.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jackass did an episode. There's a town in Connecticut called Uranus.
Oh, geez.
Right. So it's not spelt exactly like that, but they did this whole episode of like, I'm having, hot dog, and no, it's my anus. That's what it is. My anus. So there's like these weird town names that like just have, Djibouti,
It sounds like a Jackass thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were kind of joking about it before, if, like, with Djibouti and stuff like that. And it's funny. And the point of it is, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you can't find comedy and lightful, conversations that kind of make things and break things up, where the world is the world, right? We're not going to be able to completely change the world. People are going to be people, but individually, like, we can find, happiness in our own way, and, we were joking before, like the Landrys, and we're not even related, but doing like a Brady Bunch, theme type of thing. Dun, 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 dun. It's the Landrys, and just having lightful, like, happiness all around. I think it's important for mental health.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who you are, right? You may not have any connection to the military whatsoever, but having that playfulness, enjoying life, is, I think, the most important thing, because when you take things too seriously, sometimes it can really just create a weight on you that sometimes you can't get off for a while. Now, going through, like, we're in, very similar situations of growth of our business and everything else, and when you become fully involved as the assistant, right? I joke, but it's more of a partnership, right? And, she's boss lady. You're filling those shoes of, anything you need, supportive, and kind of being able to take a back seat of, tell me what to do versus, being the first sergeant, and it kind of is a little bit more relaxing for you, which I think is a good transition, right? It really is, because now you're not here, right? You're here with each other, and you just say, hey, just tell me what to do next. Like, it's like that E1 coming in and going, just tell me where to stand, right?
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, what do I do with my hands? And what as far as sometimes business doesn't work out, like when it's like that, right? Somebody's got to go do their own thing, and everything else. Boss lady, turning it back over to you. What does it mean to you, like having him, like, just I'm getting out and the trailer is my trailer. I'm going to be tell me where to stand. What does that mean to you? Just the overall, like, support and, like, this is you, this is us, and let's go. Like you said before, send it.
Yeah.
Right.
Send it. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't do it without him. His support, he helps me set the trailer up every event. If I need something, we're running low on beer, he's had to run to the Minogues, to get more beer during an event.
What is that?
Minogues.
Yeah.
It's a beer distributor.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know. So
there's no Minogues in
Connecticut. Yeah. We don't have that.
No. Oh.
Yeah. So it's indigenous to Saratoga, I think.
Maybe.
Very indigenous.
Yeah. So continue. I mean, like, what's, having that, support kind of weight off your shoulders, right? Because you can focus on providing that experience,
right?
And that's your main focus, because you're so focused on, I want to make sure it's good. I want to make sure people enjoy it. I want to, make sure everything is perfect.
Right. So making sure that the customer is happy is like number one priority. So when I can focus on the guests being happy, the customer being happy, and I know that everything in the backside is taken care of from him, the ice, the beer's cold, I know that that's taken care of. He's taking care of it. I can now focus everything else on making the experience perfect for the guests and everybody. So
yeah, I think it's very important, even if it's not like a kind of a couple, married or not, but just a business kind of partnership, right? You work in sync with each other, may not be doing the same thing at the same time, right? Within, the construction and making things run, but, providing that customer service experience, even though because you have a service, right, you're providing to people, but having 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, whatever, just working in harmony, I guess, is the best way to put it, where you can focus on, what your main mission is for it. You can focus on it. And at the end of the day, everybody high fives each other.
Right.
That was awesome. You get your referrals and everything else. Now, I mean, obviously we've been talking about Tipsy Tables. How can people get a hold of you?
Facebook is the easiest way right now. Everything is linked to my Facebook page. We typically, I get inquiries. Then I like to have a phone call conversation or a video chat conversation. Like, I'm a real person. I'm not trying to rip you off. Let's work together, customize your menu and what works best for you. It's all about customizing everything to make everything perfect. So.
Yeah. And I think it's good what you're doing, because you could easily say, these are my 4 packages, pick one. Right. And then it just doesn't have the vibe, they have control over their event a little bit, and be able to make it special for each individual event. And I think it's a beautiful thing that, you've started and continued with. And the success is, really based on that experience that you're providing people. They really connect with it.
Right.
So, and it's Tipsy Tables on Facebook. Ashley Landry, Tory Landry. Now let's kind of dive into, how do you think, when he transitions out, being in a military spouse role? I mean, we talk about, spouses, they serve too, right? They serve because, he's on deployment and you're holding down the house, right? You're holding down the business. You're, making sure everything is good here, and he's making sure things are good there, and he comes home safe.
Right.
With that transition for him coming out of the military, what are some of the conversations that you guys have prepped yourselves for that transition?
Well, I still have, like I said, I got 25 years in now. So Depending on whether or not I go for summer major, it could be, my ETS is next year.
Okay.
So I have, as of June of this year, I have got to have a really serious conversation with her and my command and see, where do I go from there. But my civilian job, it's I'm vested in it. So, man, I've always got that to go to lean back on. But I don't know. I think that the one thing that we want to kind of enjoy is getting those weekends back, because as she starts growing and the weekends start filling up with with events and stuff like that, I want to be able to be that person that's like, hey, yep, free and clear, send it, let's go.
All
You
right.
know what I mean? So I think that's what that conversation is going to be. I think it's going to be more of a relief than anything else, because like I said, we get our weekends back, and predominantly that's when you have all those events that people book. So
All right. Yeah, Wednesday on a Tuesday night really isn't like hitting the papers,
Not yet.
the summers, though, you never know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it could be one of those things where, I mean, you just kind of change the game in the wedding world, one state at a time, where people go, hey, we're running it, an event and during the week, I mean, obviously everybody tries to do like weekends and stuff because, mostly people have 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, but to be able to have that addition to their event, it's a game changer. I mean, if you just have a tent outside, a lot of people that pick like wineries, stuff like that, and the winery will throw a tent outside, and that's where everybody sits, right? So you could literally be, the pop-up event, right? You just, you build it and they will come, type of thing, Oh, excuse me. And I think it's really good because it kind of it brings a flavor, right, to the table with an event, whether it's even birthdays, and you do like kids stuff,
Right.
and weddings and graduations,
we've done some graduation parties.
And I think it's really good because it takes the weight off the people having the event too. I think, because they're like, it's kind of like you're the event planner, right? You are, on that side of the house. The rest of the stuff they don't have to worry about, but yeah, so let's kind of dive into like purpose, like how, when obviously he was deployed and stuff, like you talked about your experience in the restaurant industry and service and everything else, how does Tipsy Tables now, that's your driving purpose of like, that's who you are, right? You are Tipsy Tables, you've created in a new identity, for yourself, and how does that feel like to you?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I've met so many people in, the restaurant world and the wedding world. Everybody has been so helpful. We were out a couple weeks ago and somebody recognized me. They were like, "Hey, you own the mobile bar?" And I was like, "Yeah." So that's cool now to have my name out there, to get recognized by people.
Yeah. And I think that with as things grow and everything, you're going to have shirts and slogans and all that stuff where people can be like, hey, I've got specialty maybe shirts for the event designed by Tipsy Table.
Yeah.
We talked about like mugs and everything like that, etched mason jars and everything else. What are kind of some of the other stuff that you want to bring in for the experience, for the service you're providing?
Yeah, so that's something that we are starting for this year. For weddings, for example, if a bride and groom book with us, we're trying to get together some sort of like thank you package or something to be able to give to them for when they book. So whether that's the mason jar that's engraved, we're still working our wheels with that one.
Yeah. And earlier you said you guys are like really just doing the shirts by yourself, and all encompassing, business. So it is a veteran spouse owned business. I feel like that, like they have categories of like veteran owned business. They have disabled veteran owned business. Like I kind of want to be able to like shed the limelight on, veteran spouse owned business or spouse, what I mean? Somewhere in that realm where, because, it is one of those things where I think it helps the relationship. It helps, deployments, and you being your own person, with a spouse that's, in the military or a veteran, once he gets out and everything, combat veteran at that too. How many deployments have you been on?
2 combat deployments. First one in Iraq in 2003, and then this one I just came back from 2023. Ready? Yeah, it's 2023. 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot going on as far as the dynamics and everything else. And, shedding limelight on, the rocks of the household, the ones that the glue, you could call it, when we were away doing our job, or even, the females in the military and the males at home. Right.
Mhm.
So, shining the limelight on, it's not just the service members, it's, their spouses, their family members, and all that stuff. It's really important because that's our glue. That's what keeps us going. That's our drive, get home, celebrate, our successes and everything else, so, but, with this podcast and everything, that's something that I wanted to bring to the table of, helping other businesses like yours, cohesively working together, because I think it's important if, we work together, building a community, and you can't have community without unity.
Yep.
Right. And we talked about that. And that's something that I've, been putting out and pushing out, because it's true. I mean, people talk about the veteran community or the community I live in, but if people aren't unified, right, and working together, do you have a community? And Tipsy Tables is creating, similar like how Everlasting Veteran and other places, they create a community, right? You're part of that community. You're part of the Tipsy Table community, and that's where I think connection with people that use your services, really starts driving the business, and expanding and booming and growing and everything else, because people believe in, you are the brand, you are Tipsy Tables, and they want to feel that experience all the time. They embrace it into their lives.
Yeah. The Tipsy Tables for her, like you said, it's her identity. My service and everything for me is a secondary order effect. You know what I mean? Which I always wanted to make sure that she knew that she's the owner, she's the brain behind the operation, and she is Tipsy Tables. By virtue of being a military spouse, is just, it's something it's extraordinary for her to be in that position, but it's not a veteran spouse business. It is a spouse, business. And I've always wanted to make sure that, my service has nothing to do with what she's built. And I'm only here to make sure that there's no limit to where she can go.
Right.
And then just my service, if somebody, finds out that, she's a military spouse, and, that just kind of adds on to how strong she is as a person, but nothing to do with, how she's created it on her own, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the point, I'm trying to make is, just the strong, willing attitude that you have, and what you go through behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know about it. Right. And having an atmosphere like this to be able to talk about it for people to see, okay, Tipsy Tables is going through a lot, right? Tipsy Tables is, going through those ebbs and flows, right? And it's not just a pop-up business that came out of nowhere.
Right.
Like, there's purpose behind it and meaning behind it and everything else. And, what is kind of like the embracing vision that you want people to see with Tipsy Tables?
I just want people to know that, we'll customize anything to make their experience the best experience that they'll ever have.
Yeah.
So.
And you're talking about, expanding like coffee bar and stuff like that, and possibly bringing on, like a sponsor to bring in like coffee, where, their coffee is the only coffee, or, competing offers type of stuff where you're able to help their business out and they help your business out and have that partnership. So if anybody's watching, Tipsy Tables is looking for, a coffee company to be able to be a part of her program, and I think it's great what you're doing.
Yeah, I think supporting other small businesses and helping each other grow is huge. I learned everything that I know from other small businesses that I have worked with who started from the ground and worked their way up. So
Yeah.
being able to help each other and it's good.
Yeah. What kind of coffee options would you like to see at Tipsy Tables?
Flavored coffee is usually our thing. But I'm good with any strong black tar coffee as you possibly can get.
Yeah. So no like decaf light Folgers.
No, definitely not. But I do see. I mean, I think it's great that there's a lot of coffee companies out there that are very veteran friendly.
Right.
And that's just it kind of adds to the like you said, to the experience, because you're not just drinking coffee, you're drinking coffee with a purpose.
Right.
When she brings her trailer anywhere,
right.
Which I think is the appeal, she brings with it the value, the purpose of creating that experience. And so you're not just having a drink, you're having a drink in a bar with a bar sign that's lit up, or just beautiful, the ambiance
Right.
she creates that, and it blows my mind every single time I see it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the 22 Salute vodka up here. And they have vodka with a purpose, coffee with a purpose, because the proceeds, Eric Ranks, the CEO of 22 Salute Spirits and Coffee, some of the proceeds go towards other organizations that put service dogs out for veterans, and he wanted to make sure that he also started up and runs the Veteran Connection as well. And he's not a veteran himself, but has that family bloodline. And his story, Eric Ranks' story, is absolutely amazing. The trials and tribulations from a very young age, and you guys can check out the episode that I had with him and learn more about Eric Ranks. From medical ailments and almost losing his life, and at a very young age, to what he's brought it now, and the mental health struggles that he went through because of it. And he is a very positive person, and everything that he embraces. And I think he was just in Vegas during the Super Bowl and stuff with the promotion. There were, I think, taxi cabs had like 22
Nice.
Salute on it and everything else. He is a business owner and everything, but at the same time, just being human, right? That's the biggest thing, and I tell a lot of people that are getting into business for themselves. Maybe you're at whatever job you are, when you start chasing the dollar, right, you lose sight of like why you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like if you like your experience that you create, right? People pay for that experience, right? They're not paying for a product, right? They're paying for the experience, and I think it's very important for people, not just veterans, anybody, to have that mindset, because as soon as you start chasing that dollar and it's all about the money, I think Jocko said it the best, is your intent. If you have poor intent, right, it stinks. Like people can smell it, right? I think it was Jocko. He said on one of his podcasts, I saw a short clip. Surprisingly, I have a full-blown studio and a podcast, and I haven't listened to a full episode of anybody's podcast because I don't try to emulate anybody, right? Because it's not genuine to who I am. I stumble over my words. I, babble along, and whatever, but I create my own thing. It's therapeutic for me. Before this, like, I think I'm on my 5th cup of coffee right now. And after we had breakfast, you guys saw me, I was all kind of wired. But the big thing for me is like, this is natural to me, right? It came natural to me as soon as I put the headphones on, talking to a mic. Everything slows down. My world goes like this, and I'm able to focus and kind of listen to myself literally in the headphones, and figuratively, be able to, your brain kind of subconscious processes what you're saying, and it comes natural to the point where it's like an unorthodox therapy for me.
Well, they say that, if through any types of therapy, to release some of those inner thoughts is therapeutic, because some of the thoughts you have in your head are a little competing. So it kind of causes chaos in your head. So for you to kind of let it out, process it, and kind of regurgitate it, kind of allows you to kind of take the weight off, yourself, and kind of work through a lot of things.
Right. Yeah. And that's one thing I try to design, like with this podcast and this atmosphere. One, I needed to make it comfortable for me, because I'm sitting here, like the last episode I had the Navy commander for the base here. I was in the Army, so kind of outnumbered in this area, but this is kind of my helm, right? I was trying to use Navy terms, and it's a little bit difficult because I wasn't in the Navy, but I'm like, is it the helm? Is it? He's like, yep, the helm, and this is my controlled space, right? This is my atmosphere. This is where I feel most comfortable. And the point to it is find your comfortable space. And you've done it with Tipsy Tables, right? And you've done it with what you're doing right now. And, you have, the 5, 10, 15-year plan where, okay, once I'm done over here, this is my focus. What do you need? Right. And you do it already, but then, you get to the point where you go, you know what? I just want to change a lifestyle, right? I want it a little bit more simple, a little bit more laid back, tell me where to stand, right? And I feel like, sometimes as you grow, you're going to get to that point too, where you want to take more of a back seat to it, where somebody can come hook up to one of your trailers and go do an event,
right?
And that's one of the things with business ownership, and especially with like the podcast, like you guys see the inner workings here sitting in the studio, and I'm flipping through doing we call it the DJ thing. And I got my cameras. I don't have somebody on the backside, producing it. I'm editing the content afterwards. I'm pulling guests on myself, doing my own schedule. One, it's cheaper because I'm not paying somebody to do it. Right. But I do enjoy it. Right. And it took me a while to understand, especially all this, right? This is a lot here, right? Big control board area. But what works with what, and what is my experience I'm creating here, similar to what you're doing with Tipsy Tables or any other business ownership that wants to create an experience, in this area, tells a story, the items behind me, have history to it, from my grandfather's, Navy cap up there in the World War II, Vietnam, Korean War era. He was 23 years in the Navy. His flags here, the Australian Cav hat from the Australian boys I got it from, they served with, my stuff over here, Postcards Through Hell, great book, Alan and Ed, Alan Chase and Ed Ford. So Postcards Through Hell, if nobody knows, amazing story. Those guys were the private contractors delivering our mail through Afghanistan. So amazing book. I don't want to dive too much into it, but they were essentially given F-550s, and up armored the backside, flat bottom steel plates on the bottom of the vehicle, and they had maybe 2 or 3 vehicles, no air support, no nothing, cowboy up, let's go. And coincidentally, we did an episode, we're talking, they're like, we're Erzgon Province, stopped at Fob Hadrian, and that was their main stop, and I was there when they were delivering my mail. 2 amazing individuals. Alan Chase was Navy corpsman. He's also with the fire department, SWAT team medic, very tactical guy. Ed Ford, Marine Corps veteran. And I had one of their team leaders on as well. And their story is a story that's not told, and they're telling it through their book of Postcards Through Hell. Such a fitting name for a book too. So there's stuff in here that it just, without even talking on a mic, you can go around and there's a story, and what you're doing, with Tipsy Tables, that's doing the same thing, and you're on a mobile, level. You're bringing the experience to people.
Yeah,
you know?
that's our biggest.
Yeah.
We'll
So
bring it to you.
yeah. So maybe I need to get a trailer and put all this in it, and and
Bring it anywhere.
yeah, bring it anywhere. Park in your front yard and podcast.
Yep, and have a drink.
Yeah. So if anybody is looking, Saratoga, what's your range right now as far as like services? How far out are you going right now as far as events, not date wise, but distance wise?
Yeah, so we're right in Saratoga Springs, New York. Right now, the furthest is maybe an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's
I think
kind of what-
50 miles you typically have on your.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And are you doing with the packages and stuff? Are you doing like kind of like a mileage thing? I know people will probably ask about that. Like, people are paying like farthest out. Are they paying like per mile? Is it just a full on package that you come up with? This is what it'll cost.
Yeah, so included in our hourly rate is the mileage. 50 miles each way are included in our pricing. So if you're 54 miles, it's $2 a mile
Okay.
extra
Gotcha.
per mile.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it is a service where, you're bringing, a full blown trailer with everything that they need, and you talked about before, like as far as, they can pick out what alcohol and what other beverages, they want, you can get stuff that's, not the alcohol, like kind of include, they buy the alcohol, right?
Yeah, so we can't sell hard liquor.
Okay.
So we get a beer wine insider permit to be able to serve
Gotcha.
beverages.
Gotcha. And you got those Shirley Temples on standby for the kids.
Yeah.
4 cherries, 5 cherries, everything that you need. I saw like on your thing, you had like, do you bring the cornhole with you and stuff too? Is that part of it?
Yeah. So the cornhole was actually, I started custom cornhole sets back when COVID started.
Oh, okay.
I started that with my dad. We've kind of deviated a little bit from that because the bar is just taking up so much time, which is wonderful. So we've thought about doing like a Tipsy Tables cornhole set and renting it out. I think that's what we're going to do this season.
Okay. Gotcha. So games, activities, experience, pull up, have a party.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, pull up, have a party, have a good time, and love the experience going on. Anything, advice, of anybody, wanting to become an entrepreneur and get into their own business. What is kind of the motivating factors that's kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into your own business, come up with an idea and go for it. Don't be scared. It's scary.
Yeah.
But you just have to go for it. Reaching out to people who have already done what you're trying to do has been helpful. Even if, we're up in New York, so reaching out to people down south, out west, getting ideas about how they run their business has been helpful too.
Yeah. And do you think like with Tipsy Tables, based on the geographical area, say like if you decide to do one and things expand and you're in Georgia or South Carolina, branding it more for the area, do you think that's more of a way to go, or just keeping it kind of Tipsy Tables the way it is and the experience it is, or creating the experience with that trailer that's in that area for what's going on?
Yeah, I think adapting the trailer to meet that area, keeping the same look, the style, the horse trailer that's been converted into this mobile bar, keeping that, but adjusting the
Gotcha.
the scene.
Yeah. It is the Landrys. They're on a podcast. He's got a horse trailer and he's Tory or Troy.
I'm just a support.
Yeah.
I'm the support. I'm the emotional support.
Emotional support husband. The ESH. Yeah. It's amazing what you're doing. It's amazing, watching it grow, from the beginning. And you were on the news, right?
Oh yes. CBS 6.
CBS 6.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. How was that? How did that come about?
So I was posting on Facebook, different Facebook pages, and somebody who worked for CBS 6 saw what I was doing, and she reached out to me and she was like, "We need to do a story on your mobile bar." So that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can find that on the Googles.
Yes.
And it's also, you have it tagged up on the Tipsy Tables Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you got the American flag in the background. You got the great nostalgic look of the trailer. And we were just talking about like the 55, like a 55, you know, steel body Chevy pulling that thing.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It'd be super cool, you know, maybe have like, you know, TV and do like Wii golf or something, you know. Pretty amazing. And you guys go check out Tipsy Tables on Facebook. You on Instagram yet?
Yes.
Instagram as well. And they'll be looking to get a website up to make it more convenient to be able to, you know, get the information out, see packages, what can offer and everything else. But Ashley Landry, the business owner of Tipsy Tables here at Everlasting Veteran Podcast, my sister from another mister and my brother from another mother, Tory Landry. It is the Landrys. We're on the podcast. I think that's going to be the jingle in my head all day now. I appreciate everybody that support an Everlasting Veteran. Please go and support Tipsy Tables. They came down, and the day they came down, Everlasting Veteran broke 2,000 followers on Facebook. So it's absolutely amazing to be able to celebrate with good friends and people that I consider family, because my family that lives in the house is on vacation without me. I missed the plane. No, I'm just kidding. I had to work. The dogs are here. I was kind of up in the air, and it kind of worked out well because, you know, I had time to be able to do like this podcast, and I had another podcast with David Marquette, the author and retired captain, the author of Turn the Ship Around. Amazing book. Talks about, you know, not a follower leader, more of a leader mentality of how you run your business, how you run your organization, and just an overall amazing individual. And we were able to record an episode with the current base commander here, who is, I didn't realize until we were doing the episode, he was enlisted then when an officer. And, you know, he's been in the military since he was 18. And, you know, he's total cumulative, has been in the military for 40 years, or maybe a little more than 40 years. But great guy. He's actually my neighbor, 2 doors. I could throw a rock at his house. But amazing insight into what's going on in the military now. You know, things have changed since I've gone out, and kind of staying up to date on that. So that way, you know, I can put out kind of the best information possible, because if you detach yourself, or you're naturally detached, right, and you're not up to date on, you know, the changes, just the same as like when you're in the military and the world rotates around you type of mentality, you know, you're not able to put out the best information possible. And we had an amazing episode. So, and this is a great one with the Landrys. We're on a podcast. I love it. I think I'm going to have to come up with like our own little jingle, Tori's face, you know, and you know, she is Ashley. All right, guys, Everlasting Veteran. We're going to have some fun here in the studio. I appreciate everybody. Go check out podcasttables.shop. They've been an amazing sponsor, sending this beautiful table to sit at, which is sturdy as hell. USB plugs. It's meant for podcasters. Jason and his team over at podcasttables.shop believed in what Everlasting Veteran's doing, and they sent this table out, and it's amazing to be able to podcast from such a professional looking table, and it really creates that kind of atmosphere, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Don't forget to go check out Rockin' Frenchies and Meadow Ridge Wines and Danes, the 2 breeders in which Everlasting Veteran has partnered with for our dog program, getting future service dogs out to veterans. If you want to learn how to be a supporter and help us with our mission to get as many dogs out as possible, go to everlastingveteran.com. Like, share everything on Facebook. I appreciate everybody's just unparalleled support. It has been amazing. It really is. You know, it's a needed positive, you know, thing that I needed in my life, and people are, you know, connecting with it and just staying positive, you know, keep it classy, San Diego type of thing. You know, it's truly been an amazing ride so far. And I can't wait for your growth, you know, along with Everlasting Veterans growth. And, who knows, maybe you'll see a signature drink at Tipsy Tables as you guys expand and grow and everything else. It'd be amazing. And, you know, it'd be phenomenal that signature drink is made with 22 Salute, you know,
Yeah.
and just supporting everybody, growing together.
Mm-hmm.
The competition thing, yeah, there's competition in business, but when you network and you grow together,
Right.
there's nothing better in
Yeah.
it, you know, and it creates a strong business community. You know, those relationships are invaluable. But all right, guys, I appreciate you.
Well, before you go,
What do you got? What do you got?
so just like we try to show appreciation for individual achievements in companies. This is my commander in First Round Coin for HHC, which is a company that I'm currently responsible for. It's got our cross rifles, my commander, and my rank here for excellence. And then this encompasses all the different pieces that an HHC has. So,
Oh man, I appreciate it, dude.
and then I'll also have.
Oh man, come
Yeah.
on,
Mm-hmm.
dude, that's awesome.
So, you know, typically with the new helmets, they usually have like the insignia on one side and the other, flag, whatever.
Right.
This 69th patch we wore in the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Kenya, during operations against, you know, a lot of different enemies down there. But I want to present that to you. And then we also have, just like the coin, we have
It's
our
like Christmas.
we have a company patch that kind of embodies what HAC is and the Irish heritage with it. And then that's yours.
That's awesome. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys coming on. That's awesome. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I will let's throw this up here real quick. It's out of here. I'll get that. That's a big one. That is amazing. That is, yeah, it is hefty. I think it's probably not. It's maybe the biggest one that's up there now. Amazing. I appreciate it, man. Awesome. I appreciate it. And that's what the studio's about. You know, just real quick before we wrap it up, like now this is forever part of the studio. There's a story, and that's what I want to create in this atmosphere. People coming in, you know, where's that from? What is it about? You know, and it tells your story when people come in, and you know, it becomes the story of Everlasting Veteran. It's not just me. It's the community in which I'm building. So I really appreciate it. All right, guys, go check out Tipsy Tables and go to everlastingveteran.com. And like my daughter would say on YouTube, go to our channel, like, subscribe, comment down below. All right, guys, have a good one.